Hey, it's Shane and welcome to my video. So I wanted to start off with a disclaimer because I'm pretty sure some people probably saw the thumbnail and the title and clicked the video ready to drag.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
But let me reassure you that I'm making this video not to try to cancel a proud family or try to ruin anybody's childhood. That's not the point of me making this. I just thought it would be interesting to go back and rewatch one of my childhood favorites and just to see how differently I would view it as opposed to me back then when I was younger to me now. Plus to also see problematic aspects that a lot of us probably didn't clock back then because, the show did come out in 2001. There was a lot of stuff that as a society we just did not know and wasn't educated in. And I don't want anybody to take away from this video that I'm trying to discredit or take away anything from the Proud Family, because the Proud Family, like I said, is not even just, besides it being my personal favorite, I know it's a lot of people's favorites. And this show just held a lot of impact within a lot of Black households. Having a children's show showcasing a Black family that we could relate to and that, was great to see. So I don't want this to come across like I'm trying to discredit the show of any of that, because the show is still amazing. And I actually have quite a few good things to say about it, more good things that I was expecting that I'm going to say for the very end. But even with that being said, I feel like we can't just ignore the underlying issues of the show. Because like I said, came out 2001. Us as a society wasn't as progressive and knowledgeable and educated as we are now. So yeah. So let me stop rambling and let me just get into some of the problematic aspects I found about rewatching The Proud Family. So the first problematic aspect I'm going to get into with the show that I found within the show is the issue that I feel like a lot of people have come to terms to realize, like, as we grew up, the older we got, and the more this issue became prevalent in our society. And it's the issue of the colorism. So we all remember the Gross sisters, the three blue bullies who would snatch up everybody's lunch money, like on a regular basis. Their allowance, their lunch money, just all of that. So the most obvious issue being their skin tone. These three girls are dark-skinned Black girls, and the reason they're blue is because they're so ashy. It's even been stated within the show that the sisters are the color that they are because they're so ashy. And I did some research, and there were a couple of online websites and pages and articles and whatnot that I found. Now, none of these, I don't think any of these are like official, but they all stated the same thing. So I guess you could take this little bit with a grain of salt, even though even without it, it's still an issue on why their characters are how they are. So I was doing some research and I found online that the Gross sisters and their family are blue because they are so ashy that they can't afford lotion and they work in the sun all day. Yeah. So their entire family is blue because they are too poor to afford lotion and work in the sun all day. And it doesn't help the fact that one of the sisters, the middle child, her name is Nubia, and their mother have a Jamaican accent. So it's like, it's no denying that these characters are Black. Like, they're Black. They are Black people. But they are color blue because apparently they too poor to afford lotion. And I feel like there's a clear issue there with making these three Black dark-skinned girls the antagonist of the show, where they're just the aggressive bullies. Like, it very much plays into this caricature of how people portray dark-skinned Black girls to be already. Like, they make the Gross sisters and their names the Gross sisters. Like, their last name is Gross. The three girls' names are Nubia, Gina, and Olay. And their last name is Gross.
What's up with that?
Like that, it's just a lot that's adding up with them that just ain't it. That plays more into the colorism. So like I said, having these three black dark skinned girls being the bullies that's always aggressive. And there are many instances within the show where they're being called or compared to like animals, like dogs and like bugs, like roaches. And in today's age, we know that's blatant colorism. Having black girls, specifically dark skinned black girls, being portrayed as aggressive, mean, angry, bad, yeah, all of that. And then in the episode Pulp Boot Camp, Penny gets sent to a boot camp where basically her behavior becomes horrible and she becomes bad, basically, essentially. She becomes bad. And I always remembered this episode, but I don't know how I remember the episode, but I don't remember this being a thing. But Penny literally turns the same color as the Gross sisters. Like, they naturally have her turn that color. I guess you could say, yeah, because she was out in the sun for boot camp and all that. But it's just weird. It's just weird and having like, oh, Penny, she becomes bad. When she becomes bad, she becomes dark skinned and ashy. Like that's what we showing to black kids. That's what we telling black kids. Like the badder you get, the darker and ashier you get. Like okay, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that was one of the main issues I was already expecting to find within the show. Now, another column of colorism I like to dive into is one of my favorite characters, Dejanay. And there are several different things with Dejanay that I've like noticed with the show. One of the main things is how now I feel like most people who watch like a lot of teen dramas or like teen based TV shows like revolved around high school and whatnot, that they will notice this trend. But there's a trend of black characters being treated as sidekicks to their white counterparts. So one of the best examples I could give of this is Degrassi. I love Degrassi. That's another one of my favorite TV shows, by the way. But they have a lot of black characters, like main characters at that, who have fallen victim of being the black sidekick, where basically their character as a whole serves no purpose besides to play off of their white friend. Where basically they don't get their own storylines, they barely get the same amount of attention as their best friend get. Like their main purpose is basically to be there to help push their white friend's storylines forward. So yeah, so that's a thing. That's a common thing with a lot of TV shows I've noticed. But there's also a thing within black TV shows where it's a very similar trend, where basically you have a lighter skinned protagonist, main character, or whatever. And then you will have their darker skinned friend. So they're treated as being like the sidekick to their lighter skinned friend. And I feel like Dejanay has fallen victim to this of being just Penny's like sidekick. And it really became evident or apparent in the episode Poetic Justice, where basically Penny and Dejanay go head to head in a spoken word competition. And if I'm remembering this correctly, because I will say I watched these episodes a few weeks ago. So from what I remember, Penny was the one who was originally doing like the spoken word. Like she went out to do it, right? And I feel like the audience wasn't feeling her, or like it was very like mediocre, right? Eventually Penny like pushes Dejanay to like get into it. And Dejanay, she does, and like the audience loves her. Like they just they're eating her up. And then Penny, she becomes salty, to say the least. Penny became pressed. Penny became pressed as a panini. She was salty that they were feeling Dejanay, and she's like, I'm the one who like got you into this, and now you like stealing my shine, right? So it gets to the point where there's a little confrontation where, you know, Penny was hating. Penny was hating. She was salty. She was pressed. All of that because Dejanay was getting more love than her. Like people was feeling her poems more. Like her stuff was hidden, and people just wasn't feeling Penny. They was worried about Dejanay. Penny just could not handle that. She was pressed. She was salty. She was upset. So then, of course, the end of the episode where basically Penny, she does acknowledge how she's like kind of like being jealous or whatever. But also they have Dejanay be like, you know, like you my girl. I'm not gonna choose no competition over you. Like I didn't mean to steal your spotlight. Something along those lines where basically Dejanay is low key like apologizing for being great. Like they don't portray Penny to be in the right 100% because like I said, they make her like acknowledge her jealousy a bit. But like still, it's like Penny's being portrayed as like the victim when it shouldn't even be that. Like it's like Penny was basically like, you supposed to be my girl. How you gonna steal my spotlight? You ain't supposed to be in front of me. You're supposed to be behind me. Sometimes to the side of me, but never in front of me. Like we ain't doing that.
What the hell is you doing? Oh my God. We ain't never did that before. Why you thought today was the day to do that?
That's basically like what it gave off. Penny very much gave off that type of tease where it's like, oh, okay, damn. The one moment she was getting love, she got her time to shine, she got to be great at something. It's like you felt some type of way. Yeah, that was one of the main examples of her being treated as like Penny's sidekick that I clocked. That episode really made me clock it. And another thing is the way they portrayed Dejanay. And I've been kind of like second guessing if I should include this point. I feel like there are moments within the show where they very much play into Dejanay being this type of like ghetto, loud black girl. Which let me say that there is nothing wrong with black people being, for lack of better words, ghetto or for being loud and outgoing. Because I personally believe that black people who are naturally a certain way shouldn't be getting shamed because it just so happens to be a way that racists have stereotyped all black people to be. You feel me? Like, if that makes sense, like, all black people are different. There's all different types of black people. So, we're not about to try to drag the black people that are just loud and outgoing because, oh, y'all playing into the stereotype when that's not even the case. It's just in most cases, people just be like that. Most people are just like that. And they shouldn't be getting punished because racists have tried to classify as all black people being just like that. If you feel what I mean. So like, I feel like there are moments where Dejanay is just being like who she is, like where they're showcasing like that's just her. But then I feel like there are other moments where they very much play into that stereotype. One of which being her family and like home life. So in one of the most iconic episodes, The Adventures of Bebe Sitting, Dejanay basically sets Penny up and gets her to watch her siblings. Now, they give Dejanay 10 siblings. 10. And to say the least, they act a plum fool. Like, they just misbehave bad, and they have some of the older ones, because they're all younger kids, but like they have some of the older ones who can talk. Like they have them play into that similar stereotype, and they name all the kids after spices. Like the few names that were mentioned were nutmeg, cinnamon, cayenne, and Tabasco. Like, and it's just odd for them to do this with this black family, and like it's very much playing into a stereotype. It's very much playing into that black household family type where it's a lot of kids, they bad, they don't know how to act, they talk back and all this type of stuff. Like it very much plays into that. So yeah, and I have one more column to go down within the colorism of the show. And I don't know if there's necessarily a name for this, but I'm calling it the black TV family trope. And a lot of black TV shows that showcase like black families that revolve around black families. I've noticed this trope or this trend, I should say, where basically they make the male members of the family darker skin and they have the female members of the family be lighter skin. And I feel like there's a lot of black TV shows that play into that trend. And even to this day, there are TV shows that still play into this trope. And I feel like a lot of us already know how that plays into colorism and like into stereotypes like dark skin being associated with masculine and lighter skin being associated with more feminine and whatnot. So yeah, that's one thing I couldn't help but notice. Now on to the next problematic aspect of the show that I discovered while rewatching. I remember these issues like back when I was a child, but I didn't know they were issues. And I named this category Predatory Love. The first instance of this I'm going to be using is the relationship between Sticky and Dejanay. I remember watching the show and like it being the running gag of like Dejanay wanting Sticky, but Sticky not wanting nothing to do with her. But rewatching the show, seeing a lot of the stuff that they had Dejanay doing towards Sticky, like it gave off very much predator type tease. Like I can't even say it was borderline harassment because it was full harassment. It was full sexual harassment. It was borderline like assault at times. And what makes it worse is they play it up for like comedy sakes. Like that's the running gag. That's the thing that's supposed to be like, oh ha ha, she's going in for a kiss even though he is clearly showing his disgust and disinterest in her. And I feel like that they thought this would be okay because of them switching the roles, like with having Dejanay being the one that's like constantly pursuing Sticky, switching the genders up. Because I feel like if they did have it be like a male character, like it would be much more creepier or realized to be creepier than it was with it being a female character doing all this to a male character. And there's this trope within movies and television. There's this YouTube channel that has a great video on it called Stalker Love or whatever. I'm going to try to link it in the description if anybody's interested in checking it out. But basically it talks about the trope of having, you know, that type of predatory stalker type of love interest going after somebody who's not really interested or into them, and how that's such a common trope and trend within television shows and movies. And I feel like the Proud Family felt like I said, that they could get away with it because of it being a female character chasing after a male character. But watching it now, it's like, it's still just as gross. Because it's like imagining like if Sticky were to do all the things that Dejanay does to him, but he did it to Penny instead, like he'll be known as the creep character, rightfully so. So they had Dejanay being the creep, and like instead of like acknowledging it being a creepy type of thing, it was just played off as, oh, you know, that's my man. He don't know he my man, but he my man. And like, yeah, very much predatory tease, sexual harassment, just But an episode that I thought was interesting was the Surf and Turf episode, where basically they're filming like a reality show or something, a reality game show or something on the beach. And you know, you have to partner up. So Dejanay ends up partnering with Duke King. We love him. He was one of my favorite characters even back then. We absolutely stand. And then Penny and Sticky paired up together. And throughout this episode, you'll see Sticky become more jealous of Duke and Dejanay. Even though originally in the beginning of the episode, she tried to go after him to be a partner, but he wasn't having it, which led her to partnering up with Duke. So like, It's like the one time Dejanay gets off your back and stops chasing you is when you want to turn around and try to chase after her or like want her to come back to you. Like, what kind of trash is that? Like, watching the episode, I was like, okay, so they both a mess. Because literally, the second she pays him dust and takes interest in another dude, which you would think he would want, since he goes out his way to show his disgust and disinterest in her in so many different ways and throughout the entire show. So you would think that he would be happy that she's finally going after somebody else. But no, he gets upset and jealous and he starts feeling some type of way. At that point, I just came to the conclusion that they're both a mess. Like, they're both messes. And yeah, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the episode, she goes back to chasing him and he goes back to rejecting it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So it's like, okay, yeah. Another instance of like predatory love, which I will say isn't as bad as the whole Dejanay and Sticky relationship, is Sugar Mama and Poppy. Now, the thing with Sugar Mama and Poppy is Sugar Mama isn't as predatory as Dejanay. Like, period. That's the thing. She just isn't as predatory. But she does go after Poppy throughout the show. And the thing that makes it so different from Sticky and Dejanay is because Poppy, he doesn't really express his disinterest towards the Sugar Mama. Like, he'll say something in Spanish and, we'll see the subtitles. Like, we'll see him insulting her, calling her, like, a cow or something. That's another thing. He would talk really foul about Sugar Mama, like, right in front of her face. I wasn't feeling that. How he would just disrespect our Sugar Mama like that. But anyways. So, yeah. So, he would say something, but, like, he was still, like, he wouldn't actively show his disinterest towards her. Like, he knew that she couldn't understand him. And he would say insults in Spanish. But, like, besides that, he would not, like, actively show her that I don't want to be with you. Like, literally, like, Sugar Mama would be like, all right, come on, Poppy, let's go get us something to eat. And then, like, he'll get up and start walking with her, and, like, he'll, like, call her, like, a dog-faced cow, but then continue to proceed to walk out the door with her and go with her to eat. So it's like, huh? So I guess I could cut Sugar Mama more slack, because I feel like she doesn't really know that he ain't feeling her like that, which will put fault at Poppy because now he's just like clowning her for the sake to clown her. Like, he goes along with her while also like secretly hating her and insulting her. So I guess you could put the fault on Poppy. But yeah, so like I said, Sugar Mama and Poppy definitely aren't as bad as Dejanay and Sticky. Dejanay, they made her very predatory. Like, there are many points and actions she does that is just straight up sexual harassment. And like I said, they played up for laughs and whatnot. And it's like, rewatching it now, it's like, damn, girl, like, can you not take the hint? It's like, do somebody need to call the cops? Like, chill out. But overall, that's like the main two issues, the colorism and the predatory love that I found with the show, like problematic underlying issues. Now, there were a few jokes that did like kind of like dip his toe into some, homophobia and transphobia, but I digress. Besides like little one-off jokes, like those are like the two main underlying issues within the show that I found. The colorism and the predatory love. So now I would actually like to talk about all the great things I discovered with the show from rewatching it. All the things that the show did right, basically. Oh, well, actually, before I get to that, there's this actual gray area that I'm not sure where to place these two. And one of them being the episode Twin to Tweens, where BB and CC, basically, they get changed into teenagers. But one thing I didn't remember that I noticed while rewatching was how Penny's friends, La Cienega, Dejanay, Sticky, how they were showing like a clear interest in teenage BB and CC, even after they found out that was BB and CC, like, turned into teenagers. Like, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I should call that. I mean, I think that's pretty problematic. I don't know if I could call that like an issue because I don't know. It was just weird. Watching it, it was weird. Like knowing that they knew that it was BB, the baby BB, who just magically somehow turned into a teenager now, and like they're like flirting and like insinuating stuff, like getting with him, and it was just weird. It was weird. So I'm not sure where exactly to place that episode, but I digress. I digress. One more thing within the show that I found to fall into this gray area between the good and the bad are the Chan triplets. When I started to rewatch the show, like they're one of the things that I was expecting to be problematic, along with the character like Michael. From what I remember of those characters, like I thought it would very much be on like some very like stereotypical stuff, like with where they play into these character traits. But with Michael, they actually did a really well job of like portraying him. Like it feels like that's just him being him. Like they don't play too much into the stereotype where it's like questionable. Where I've kind of had moments like questioning it with Dejanay, but like with Michael, they really didn't play into that stereotype. Like they just had him be feminine, and like that was just like him. Like it didn't feel like a character trait. It just felt like him being him as a character. And I kind of feel the same way with the Chan triplets. I feel like they kind of did the same with Michael, whereas like, they acknowledged them being Asian in their culture, but they didn't play too much into like stereotypes. Then again, I'm not Asian, so I can't speak for them and say, oh, this wasn't offensive to Asian people or their culture. So that's not my place. But from what I saw, it wasn't like anything too apparent. But if anybody else did find the issue with the way they portrayed the trans triplets, please let me know. But yeah, so that's like the gray area. Um, the episode Twin to Tweens and the trans triplets. So now let me get into the things that I feel like the show did right. All the great things with the show. One of the many great things that I feel like the show did was the way they portrayed certain messages within the show. In one of my favorite episodes, Who You Calling Sissy, Michael ends up getting called a sissy by one of the boys after Michael beats them at a game of basketball. And that leads to, well, everybody's like shook after he gets called sissy. And Michael, he's just like, it's whatever. Like he pays it no mind, right? So then throughout the episode, more people start calling him sissy, and like more people start treating him badly because of him being called sissy. And Michael, he's like constantly just like, oh, it's whatever. And Penny, she starts like pushing him like, why are you letting people say this to you? Why are you like allowing this to happen? Like, why are you allowing this to happen? Like, why are you not just okay with this? And throughout the episode, there's this big monster that we don't see to the end that starts attacking the school kids. It just starts attacking the school kids. And by the end of the episode, we find out that the monster was actually Michael. And he turned into this monster from repressing all these feelings that he had from being like messed with and like bullied. So I really love the message where the show made a point of like showing that Penny wasn't right in trying to force Michael to feel and like address this that was happening to him. But they also made the point of showing how Michael passing off these feelings and just repressing them and ignoring them wasn't the way to do it either. Like how that just made him grow more hurt and hurt inside, where he just ended up becoming this monster and taking it out on everybody. So I really love that. And they basically have like them calling him a sissy, like that being the replacement word for like homophobic slur. And I just thought that was a great message and episode to have, especially to show the kids. Another episode that I feel like was done really well is the Altos, where they touched on the subject of Sticky misbehaving because of his family. And like I liked how they showcased such a storyline of him like struggling with his parents divorcing, because that's something that kids don't really know how to deal with. And I just feel like I feel like that's great stuff to showcase towards kids. And of course there's their episode 7 days of Kwanzaa, and I Had a Dream, where Penny gets set back to segregation times, so where they showcase, like, these are great messages to show and display to children. So I honestly love that. Another thing that I really love with the show is the comedy. Like, I was not expecting the comedy to hold up as much as it does. Like, there wasn't one episode where I didn't laugh out loud. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the comedy definitely holds up. And they have a lot of pop culture references that still hold up as well. So it's like, I really liked it that. Another thing, there were so many amazing guest stars that appeared on the show. Stars like Monique, Cicely Tyson, Solange, John Witherspoon, Shirley Ralph, Vanessa Williams, Romeo, Ashanti, Vivica Fox, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lewis, Alicia Keys. They got so many iconic celebrities to like guest star in episodes. Yeah, like the music, the comedy, the guest stars, the storylines, like all great, and I really love that. So yeah, this video is already long enough, and I'm sure people are, if they even made it this far, are probably tired of hearing me talk. So I'm going to end this here, and hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully I didn't seem like I was reaching too much at any point. Hopefully nobody thinks that I put on my hotep hat for this. Also, let me know if you're excited for the revival of the show. I feel like the show is either going to be really good or it's just going to be like okay. Like, and this is no shade, but I feel like it's gonna be like, if it's not great, it's going to be like Raven's Home, which, you know, it's not bad. I only got through like a couple of episodes of Raven's Home. I couldn't keep up with the show. Not because I didn't like it, but just because I had so many TV shows that I had to catch up on, and that's just one of the few that just slipped through the cracks. So yeah, that show wasn't even bad, but it just wasn't as good as the original, so it kind of felt like a letdown in a way. But I'm excited to see how it turns out. If it's even better than the original, like if they bring back all the good stuff with the show and like just leave the little problematic aspects, like let's leave that back in the early 2000s. If they do that and they just bring back all the good things I said with the show, then I'm going to have to give some coins to Disney Plus because I would like to watch it. I would like to see. I would like to see it.
I would like to see it.
But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, maybe a subscribe. I feel like I'm definitely going to create more videos like this, like our problematic phase, where I go back and rewatch old childhood favorites of mine, so like look at the problematic aspects of it. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.